Well, let me get the volume, as is my custom. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Bruce McDonald, and this is the Talamanca Review. It's Wednesday, the 10th of September, 9:50 p.m. Tomorrow is 9/11. 9/11s is 99. The third instance of the cycle of threes. I took a couple nights off from podcasting. I don't know why, really. I guess I just didn't feel it. I don't even know why I come here anymore. I mean, I do. I'm certainly not here to entertain anybody. And I think most people who've been with me for even a month or longer know that to be the case, although some of the podcasts, I suppose, could be entertaining. I feel at this point a duty to speak, because I feel that I'm in a unique position to help give understanding about what's going on. Now, before I get into that, I want to talk about love. Because this is the correct way to begin this podcast. I think love is what everybody is seeking. I don't think people really understand what that word means anymore. And like most of the language, we've done a very good job of screwing up that word too. At its core, love is the same thing in all instances. It is a moment lived in which we forget about ourselves because our enchantment with something else, our devotion to something else is so complete that we disappear. And if you understand this definition of love, this definition of being, our supreme being, our God, is love. Now, the purpose of life is the mastery of love. And the mastery of love is self-realization and God-realization. Anybody who says anything different is completely and utterly full of shit. I don't care what they're wearing. A fish hat, a yarmulke, beads, a big white beard like Santa Claus or a fucking pervert. I don't care who they are. If they tell you anything different from what I just told you, they're full of shit. They don't know what they're talking about. Now, what's been going on for some time now, but is particularly acute in the last 5 years since the beginning of the pandemic, is the deprivation of love. Because love is the most powerful energy in the world. It is the life-giving force behind everything. The insects you see exist because something loves them. We exist as soul, as being, because our Creator loves us. Children are raised well because their parents love them. Marriages function and the two people grow because they love each other. If you understand what I'm saying right now, you understand the problem in the world. At this point, there's no need or reason or purpose behind blaming anybody. We all did this. We all created this world. And we did it over 3 generations. Do you know that in the metapsychology practiced by the controllers of this reality we live in, this realm we live in, it is well known that a traumatic war will make people very malleable and more prone to suggestion for 3 generations. That's how powerful the trauma of war is. So we're 3 or 4 generations out from World War I and World War II. And we've come through an intense program. And it's a massive reconditioning program. We can fairly well adduce, at least on this podcast, and I think those of you who've been listening to me for a while will concur, we can fairly well adduce that all intentionally applied trauma is to control. All intentionally applied trauma is to control. The one exception that comes to mind is perhaps torture, and that may be done for pleasure, but I think the person doing it would be looking to control or pacify their own demons. And these would usually be self-created demons. It's going to be a slightly heavier show tonight. Usually when I podcast, I'm sparring. I'm in the ring, I'm throwing punches, I'm moving my feet around, I'm bobbing, I'm weaving. But I'm not looking to really connect, because that's what sparring is. You're just practicing. But tonight I'm not sparring. Tonight I'm fighting. And I would say, at the risk of sounding grandiose and even a bit like a comic book, I'm fighting for the soul of the Western world, which, if it does not connect with love, is not going to survive. Because absent love, the soul can't be present in the human experience. It may be off in the back, but you'll have no connection between it. And this is the whole point of spiritual practice, is to connect the personality and the soul. And the personality dissolves as the soul comes in. Doesn't mean you have to live in the absence of personality, but you, again, like I say, you put it on and off like a wedding and funeral suit. I clearly have a personality. I have a wicked sense of humor. I like playing with my nieces and nephews. I like certain foods. I watch too much TV. I have a personality. I'm a human being. But I know it's just a suit I've put on to wear to the show so that I can be human. Because I don't want to walk around and pretend I'm some phony fucking spiritual being because I wear all cotton, or I grow my beard out, or I wear beads, or I pretend to be part of some culture I wasn't born to. Fucking hate those people. I told you I'm not sparring tonight. You should know by now, 12 and a half minutes in, whether you want to finish this podcast. But I assure you, this will be gentle compared to what's coming in the world. And those of you who want a better chance of surviving, and I don't mean physically, I can't promise that. Your fate is your fate. You could get blown up, you could get annihilated by an atomic bomb. You could be killed by people in your city. If you think I'm being dramatic, I want you to try and imagine a country like the United States going to war now. Like a real war. Sending its military abroad. Perhaps even running a conscription. Drafting people into war. How do you think that's going to go over with the kids 18 and above in America now? The moment they go to war, the war domestically starts. So it's going to simultaneously be a kinetic war, military on military, and a civil war. The chaos coming is unimaginable, and nothing can stop it at this point. Nothing can stop it. We are literally going to raise hell. Now, most people, when they hear that expression, they think of getting drunk, going out to let your hair down. Let's go raise some hell. I mean it literally. You see, human beings are the gateway to this world. Animals can't channel. You ever met an animal? You ever met a dog that could talk like Bashar? Or Barbara Marciniak, or any of these channeling douchebags? No. We're the portals. We're the keepers. We're the guardians. We're the stewards of this realm. And part of that responsibility is internal hygiene, a term I picked up from the Taoists. And to understand why internal hygiene is necessary, you have to understand the power of thought. You have to understand the multidimensional reality that we live in. But we've been so busy fucking our neighbors' wives and watching porn and snorting coke and listening to gangster rap and reading Playboy magazine from 1955 to 2025. It's not there anymore. It's not there anymore. The mastery of love is in all domains. It's not enough to master spiritual love. It's not enough to open up your consciousness to the light of God. You have to channel that love into the world. This home and Rosemary and my nieces and nephews are the finalization of my spiritual training. It's grounding everything I've learned into a practical purpose so that I spiritualize every aspect of my life. This is what marriage was originally intended to do. But you can't really feel love if you want to fuck your neighbor's wife or your neighbor's husband, because women are as bad as men now. Wasn't always that way. I suppose you can thank Margaret Atwood and The Handmaid's Tale for that, and many other feminists. But we're a wretched fucking species at this point. We're vile. And what's more, we have spread our vileness to all four corners of the world. Now, I can't tell you with any certainty what it was like in Atlantis. I imagine there was global communication. I imagine they had ways of communicating with each other, not exactly the same as the internet, but the general principle of mass communication and rapid movement of information would definitely have been a part of a society as advanced as what I have heard Atlantis was. So this is not the first time. Everything going on this planet is spiritual. Everything. There's a spiritual reason the plasma balls are showing up in the sky now. There's a spiritual reason there's UFOs involved in the human experience now. There's a spiritual reason 99 out of 100 people speaking on this topic are disinformation assets for intelligence agencies or straight-up killers, like Lou Elizondo, whatever the fuck his name is. We in the West have become a culture of serial killers. You don't think that, but it's true. Not so funny now because the killing's coming to our doors. But you think about our society from 1960 onward, from 1950 onwards. Right after World War II, we had to step into Korea. Because those communists were coming for us. Then right after that, we stepped into Vietnam. Because those fucking communists were coming for us. Before Vietnam, we killed John F. Kennedy. Probably one of the last real human beings in American politics. And then it settled down for a while. There wasn't, to my remembrance, any major military conflicts until the end of the Cold War. Most of the 70s and 80s after Vietnam, most of the fuckery was down here in Central America, overturning national leaders because the fucking communists were coming for us. You can see the trauma in these people to this day. You can see it in the Nicaraguans. The brothers that cut my abaca, I think they go from 27 to 19. 3 brothers at a family of 9 kids. You ever notice the people who produce the most children now are the people who, at the inception of that birth, have no idea how they're going to support the children, have no 401k, no registered retirement savings plan, as we call it in Canada, no money put aside for university, or no trade to pass on to their children. Just maybe 10 or 20 acres of land that they can farm and grow their food on and pick up a little money here and there doing work on other farms or going to a factory for a couple of years to make some money. You know, most of the world lives that way. If you traveled a little bit, you'd know that. And I'm not trying to be insulting, but North Americans are extremely insular people, very much living within a bubble. And that bubble has been defined from the two-dimensional reality projecting from your screens for 65 years now, 70 years now. It's interesting that all this stuff happens at the same time, eh? Isn't it interesting? All the mind control techniques individually, which are in full force now. Full force. And all at a time when life in many ways has never been better. If the history we have is true. And there's no guarantee of that. None that I can give you anyways. But if the history we've been given is true, "150 years ago, a hot shower was a big deal. A bath was a big deal. In 1875. You had to have wood. You had to start a fire. You had to have large kettles, not for tea, for carrying 2-3 gallons of water to a bathtub. You had to boil water. Soap was probably handmade from lye and wood ash and various and animal fat. Probably most people made their own soap. Most people might have 2-3 pairs of clothes, if that. And when they got a hole in them, they got patched up. Probably every grouping of people, 10 families or more, had at least one person in that community who could fix shoes or boots, could resole them, sew them back up again. Because there was no mass production. This is what I mean when I say we've never had more than we have now. I knew this at a very young age. Very young age. I don't know how I knew it, I just knew it. Maybe from talking to my grandmothers. That farmhouse I describe in The Devil in Us, the one my grandfather blew his head off in, it was wood heated. Wood furnace. You know how much work that is? That would have all been done for the most part by saw and axe. You know how much work that is? To keep a house going through the winter? Just to keep the heat on. I've always rather enjoyed the semi-primitive life. I know. Bruce, you've got 4 computers. You've got a Mac Mini M4, you've got a Mac Mini M1, you've got a Toshiba Dynabook. You just ordered 2 27-inch monitors today from a vendor in San Jose. And I did. I've had very bad luck with monitors up here. The computers do okay for the most part. I got that figured out about 8 years ago. You have to have breaker boxes for all your connectors so they don't get surges. Took me a while to figure that out. Took me several Lenovo ThinkPads to figure that out. But I'm having bad luck with monitors for some reason. I've gone through like 3 or 4 in the last 2 or 3 years. Weird. But you get what I'm saying, right? It's not complicated. Why is it so hard for human beings to live? Why can't everybody simply do what I did? Go and build a home somewhere. The simple people on this earth will never harm you. Do you know that? The people quickest to feed you and put a shirt on your back are the people with the least to give. And all these first worlders are afraid to go out into the world. Asshole fucking North Americans that come down here and build $1 million mansions. Just get a fucking house and live in a Costa Rican community. Go to the local town meetings. Go and meet the people at your local church. You know? It's not hard to do. But everybody's got this status. You know? Oh, I can't talk to them. They have no education. I'd put my money on them being fucking smarter than you with your PhD. You being the general you, I'm not speaking to anyone in particular. I'm not even sure there are any PhDs who listen to the Talamanca Review. Love came into my world in stages, as it does for all highly traumatized people. The first stage was the spirit of the Creator, and that I was able to access by going within after being taught how to do it. And that kept me alive for a long time. Kept me going. And then to connect with the world, I started writing books because I wanted to share myself with the world. The human love, the personal love, was extremely difficult for me. I understand why my marriage ended in divorce. I understand why the only other woman that I loved left me. I wasn't really there for them. I couldn't really be there. Now, I could make excuses and say, well, it was that fucking evil Western society, and deep down in my heart, I knew I'd end up living the way I'm living now, and I'd find a mate for my soul. Not a soul mate, but a mate for my soul, meaning that I can just be with that person. and give them my love and my affection and my protection and my financial support. And in return, receive all of their love and have them share everything they have in their life with me, including their whole family. You know, I actually don't mind and feel good that I'm able to take care of Steve, and even now that we're finally having this honest podcast. But human love is the hardest, right? In some ways, the spiritual love that you get in internal life, and it's easier. A lot of these people living in monasteries, they'd have a hard time connecting with people if you threw them out of the monastery or dragged them out of the Himalayas, because they don't know how to ground that love in this world. Like I said, I mean, it took me, I don't think I really got it till my father died in 2022. I don't think I really got it and released myself of all that trauma until I wrote The Devil in Us. I was putting it up, as Anton Chigurh says, at least in the physical plane. Like I said, internally I could access incredible states of ecstasy and love from 40 years of meditation. But I wasn't grounding it properly. Now I am. I'm very proud of that, because it's finalizing the life mission of any human being, which is the perfection of love. And there's absolutely no shame in finding difficulty in it. No shame at all. In fact, anyone who seems easy and casual in loving people, they're not loving people. All these fucking phonies you see who think they have a perfect life and they make a little bit of money and they have money for the nice clothes and, you know, the Lexus or the BMW or the Mercedes. And they're always smiling and they always look happy, like those fucking twats in Sex and the City. No offense, I'm in a mood tonight. That's not happy. They're just putting it up. They wouldn't know what love was if it fell on them. Most people don't. When you finally figure love out in its totality, I forgot something. The beginning of my ability to truly love human beings began with my son. My son taught me how to love. And I did that without a woman in my life. That would have just confused things. But my son taught me how to love because his vulnerability allowed me to be vulnerable. He taught me how to love in the world. I taught him how to go within and go to other worlds and find higher, deeper, richer love and meaning. It was an equal trade, these incarnations between me and my son. There's a very strange astrology about my son and my father and I, which is why I dedicate The Devil in Us to my father and my son. And I call us three of a perfect pair, which I'll be the first to admit is ripping off a King Crimson song, the reformed King Crimson, with Robert Fripp and Adrian Belew and I forget the other dude. Oh yeah. Oh, it's the bassist, Tony Levin. Yeah, the three of them. Remarkable music, freaky. And I mean really freaky. Schizophrenics like it. I think I'm going to get a comment from one of my European listeners. You know who you are. So my son taught me a lot about love, and then by the time I was done with him, I was pretty much ready to love an adult human being. There was still some stuff to anger out. iron out. Freudian slip there. But that both words could apply. But I'll tell you this, if you sincerely don't give up, you'll make it in anything in life, including the simplest things, learning how to love. If you don't give up, there's a lot of ways to give up. You start drinking too much. You start doping. Hard drugs. I think the worst one now is the dope, the weed, the THC, the ganja, the Mary Jane, the electric lettuce, the jazz cabbage. I know so many people now who've just slipped into daily pot smoking, and it's just anesthetizing your soul. You can't really connect with anything. You kind of cut yourself off from love. It's a passive way of doing it. You don't really notice it right away. But after a number of years of smoking the weed, you realize you're not connecting with anything. You're not loving properly. And then you have to come out of that. And you have to dig yourself out of that hole. Debt is a universal principle, not just a monetary one. The exacerbation of money as a tool of social organization and manipulation and a weapon is a perversion of the law of debt. And, quite frankly, a perversion of the law of forgiveness. But why wouldn't it be? Look at the people running it. There shouldn't be any great surprise there. But here's where I really learned to love. Yeah. If I were to pass in the next few years, I'd still feel, even as a young man, 62 or 63, I had a pretty good life. But that's not to be. I've seen my future, and it goes well into my 80s. And it's going to be an exciting 30 years to watch. So, love, or the pursuit of this state of consciousness where you forget yourself in devotion or submission to something else, is the pursuit of every human being. That's what the crackhead's doing every time they hit the pipe, or trying to do. They just forgot how to do it right. That's what the alcoholic's doing. That's what everybody's doing. In one way, shape, or form. That's what the sex addict is doing. Trying to create that sustained moment of perfect being. And there's no real sin in any of it. Don't buy into what all those fucking priests and rabbis say. They're full of shit. Most of them deserve to be punched in the mouth or fucking thrown off a bridge. And I'm not even half joking. And that goes for all of them. The fucking Mormons, the Jehovah's Witnesses, all of them. Fucking ignoramuses. If they had any balls, they'd live a life rather than walk around in a dress. Flogging yourself in a monastery. You want to suffer? Just fucking live your life. You'll suffer. You don't have to. You can put the fucking whip down. You know? Now, what happens next for the human race depends on how many people understand what I've been talking about tonight, and how many people can hold on to their love. Because you know what? The orgy of violence is another form of dark spirituality. You forget yourself. Except instead of going up, you go down. You go down into the animal instincts, the lust for blood. Do you know that when a male gorilla wins a fight, the first thing it does afterwards is masturbates? True story. They want us to go down. They want us to go down. And now I'll bring us up to probably what a lot of people are thinking about, and I'll connect this with the world in a more meaningful and immediate way. What happened to that beautiful 23-year-old Ukrainian woman on the transit system in Charlotte, North Carolina, is absolutely abominable. What happened to Charlie Kirk was abominable. I didn't agree with Charlie on everything. He was an ardent Zionist and supporter of Israel. He was a true believer in the scriptures. He was a true believer in he who blesses the Jews will be blessed. I don't agree with that. But the man had courage, and he stood up on that stage and he took loads of abuse with only his own spirit to defend him. And he tried to talk to people. Now, me personally, and you're free to think I'm a little bit on the paranoid side. I won't be offended and I won't hold it against you. But I think both of those circumstances, the girl on the transit system and Charlie Kirk, I think both of their deaths involved some form of institutional mind control. And I think if we were ever to get to the bottom of these things, that's what we would find out. I think they're doing this en masse now. I think transgenderism is MK Ultra light. Okay? But we can't hate the young people who want to gender out. We created the chemically poisoned pond for these little frogs to grow up in. We put the poisons and all the hormone-altering toxins into our food, into our water, and the people born to it, that plus the medical regimen of the endless injections, the 27. A friend of mine, John Z, the super soldier, who worked at a hospital in Staten Island, or I think it was on the mainland in New York. He worked at a hospital, and that they often find government jobs like this for people with his background. He was the nighttime IT guy, so he got paid $60,000 a year to sit around and do nothing and occasionally change the ink cartridge on a printer. That's kind of like a super soldier pension, and highly reflective of a darker aspect of our civil service, by the way. He once told me that when they do the vaccines for the newborns in the hospital, they have a crash cart in the room because many of the kids have cardiac issues with getting like 27 vaccines pumped into them in one go. That and our, let's be honest about it, our almost Roman orgy-like, Caligula-like descent into sexual self-gratification as the psychological pond we raise our children in, plus the hormonal and chemical changes, plus the intentional dark forces working on them. Every one of those transgenders deserves our love because they're casualties of the culture we bore them into. There's nobody to hate. Everybody wants an enemy now. There really isn't any enemy. We just have to pick ourselves up and get back to correct living. And going back to the Jesus in the Bible is not going to work for everybody. But we have to spiritually renew. If the next revolution in the human race is not spiritual, we're finished. Okay? You look at what's coming now. And if you can't see it now, you're never going to see it. It's right around the corner, 2-3 weeks away. Poland has invoked Article 4 of NATO, which means that when one member country is attacked, all countries have to respond. This because they noted 19 violations of their airspace by Russian drones. Europe wants to go to war, but this isn't a war, it's a sacrifice. This is all about the temple. The temple is Sauron. If you haven't figured out yet that Tolkien was talking about the Temple of Solomon, he was completely literate in this secret society shit. And he was a good guy. Just like Manly P. Hall was a 33rd degree Mason, but a good guy. And they suppress these people. Okay? So Sauron is rising now, and that's why there's so many fucking orcs in the forest. And these simple-minded people, they're not going to be able to survive the psychological pressure of what's coming. We are not the same people that went through World War I and World War II together. An external global war will be catastrophic for the Western world now because the internal politics and populations of these countries have been so radically augmented in the last 15 years, it will be impossible to maintain internal stability while fighting an external war. Ergo, the West collapses. Ergo, Klaus Schwab is not a prophet, he's an excellent planner and administrator. And all you can do throughout these vicissitudes, great word, look it up. All you can do through these vicissitudes is keep your love alive. Now, in times like this, it's going to be difficult to keep the external love alive. People you love and care about are going to disagree with you. People are going to be torn apart by everything that's going on because they're going to run all this shit through their ideology and their programming, and they're going to seek to blame people. And that blame will creep right into families. It'll creep into races and create racial division. It'll just about separate everything. Consider this a social fission experiment, what's going on. Splitting the atom. The split that's coming now is a kind of final wave of the causal change begun with the nuclear age. It's a complete and total split in the human race. I wasn't given details in 2012 when I moved over here. I just knew it was coming. I knew something was coming. I had learned enough to trust my inner guidance to just act on it. I was told to leave, find a safe place, a rural place, a place where food supply in a difficult time would not be impossible, a place where I could live without monthly bills, because if you think you're going to get a rent reduction in World War III, you're fucking crazy. These BlackRocks and Brookfield cunts will raise your rent, not lower it. There's no reward for dying for them anymore. They're in a room behind a curtain jerking off while you're bleeding out on the ground. And I'm not even halfway fucking joking. This is why I wrote The Light of Darkness. This is why I wrote The Devil in Us, so that I could acquaint people with the spiritual forces they were up against. But it's very hard to communicate to people with free internet porn and Haagen-Dazs ice cream. Once the pleasure centers are stimulated, it's hard to distract people with serious matters. And that's been the entirety of the 20th century and the early 21st century since World War II. I hope that enough work was done in the last 15 years by brave people in the independent media space to wake enough people up. I hope that God works through enough people to prevent calamity on a community by community basis. I hope enough people are carrying light inside them of whatever religion, whatever discipline or independent. It's going to be a very strange 5-7 years coming up now. Very difficult to predict what's going to happen. I'm going to call this podcast The Revelation of Love. I'm Bruce McDonald. This has been the Talamanca Review.